Well, folks, hello and welcome along to the Left Wing Back podcast. It is the Carlow Hurling show once again. Apologies for the delay. We just had a bit of an issue connecting up with our Twitter account. However, we have shared the link from Facebook over to Twitter, so you can click the link there and bring it across to Facebook, and we're live on YouTube as well. So, we have the usual suspects with us and one other. First of all, Nolan and Stevie Bambrick. How are we doing?
Good, Kev, yeah.
That's...
We also have Mr. Gary Bennett, who, let's be honest about Gary, you no problem with me saying this. You probably wouldn't be the biggest man in St. Mullins, but I'd say you're the biggest character nonetheless. How's things?
Not too bad, Kevin. Thanks very much for having me. And I'm blessed to be among such royalty here now at the moment. But
hey, if you look at the screen, Gary, I'm still taller than you. Look.
I'd say I have a head on Stevie there, just about a hair or two, anyway.
It's funny, we can hear Stevie and see Stevie, or at least we could before we started anyway. But look, lads, I'll be very straight with this. I know feck all about what happened at the weekend, and that's just not limited to Carlow Hurling. So you're going to have to tell me a lot of what happened. We had a nice bit of action, I believe. I was,
Kevin. A nice bit of action.
I won't confirm or deny anything on the lads' behalf. I was well behaved anyway, but we were inundated with points at the time, as our Twitter suggested. So if you'd like to talk us through the hurling, lads, that would be great. But we have got a running order nonetheless, even though we weren't there ourselves, and a nice bit to go through. So we're going to talk, obviously, senior, intermediate, junior. We have under 20s to get through as well. And just at the top of the programme, even though it is the hurling show, I think, Joe, you wanted to make special mention just in terms of Grange, who I think won a football fail at the weekend, which is a very big achievement for a club that I don't think is out their own terrible long time.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was worth mentioning, Kevin. Last week we talked about the failure, the hurling failure, and I suppose by the time the football season kicks around, this failure, weekend will be kind of forgotten about in the grander scheme of things, maybe when we're talking or when the show moves to football. So, yeah, just to mention the young footballers there, the under-15s all around the county. I happened to see a couple of the Fenna matches there, who, that was the division that Grange were in and so on. And, I just thought it was noteworthy. Rogue, I think, beat Pal in the Division 1 final, and then in Division 2 final, Grange won that as well. So it was just nice to see. We were talking there, about clubs, plowing away and trying to keep things going and getting rewarded for it, maybe like we mentioned, kind of Burn Rangers and the hurling. So it was just nice to see a club like Grange, because, I suppose all of us would have kicked football against Grange, and numbers have always been tight over there. And it's great to see that their underage is not only coming strong again in terms of numbers, but also, that they're back to the top of things. So just thought it was worth a mention to them. But it was a great weekend of football, I have to say, across the county, and well done to all the teams and mentors that took part in it anyway.
Great stuff. So
sorry, Kevin, there. The thing about that Grange winning that, they actually won the Féile last year and qualified to go to wherever the Féile was supposed to be last year. And of all the years they had to win it, was the one bloody year they couldn't go.
Had to win it again then.
That their form ran through this year, because I remember talking to David Dillon, who had went to school in Bagnallstown, and his father would have been from over there, and he's living over there now. So, and he said, "Sure, just look, what can we do? Sure, we I said it was terrible that the fact that won it last year and didn't get the chance to go, but they've backed up the form this year and won it. It'd be great if they were one of the teams who drove to go to Crow Park, because I think some of the teams in the Carlow and each county are being drawn out in the 4 codes to play in Crow Park over the bank holiday weekend in October. So it'd be great if Grange were one of the teams in Carlow to get the nod there.
Yeah. Definitely. So in terms of the hurling, lads, I leave it in your capable hands. You saw a lot of the action at the weekend. Where would you like to start? First man to shout wins.
I don't mind. I'm easy.
Jason, I never seen you as quite the whole lot is. Oh my God.
Well, Steve, I'm actually sorry. I'm losing track of things. I'm trying to figure out. It's like where in the world with Stevie. Each week we see him here. Just trying to figure out where in the house it is with Stevie tonight, or is it? He's definitely not in the quarry. He's definitely not in the quarry this week. Anyway, I can say that.
There's a few boxes there in the background anyway. So
that's the attic there. No, the attic is over that way. I'm nearly in the attic.
I don't know, Kev. Do you want to work your way up a little bit from like we did last week, or what do you want to do? You're the boss.
Yeah, let's do it, sir. I mean, in terms of last week, I suppose the 20s was the first thing that happened since we spoke last. So let's have a blast off of that.
Yeah, well, we previewed the two semi-finals last week, and we said there'd be two cracking games, two close games, and proved true. I think there was Leinster Rangers prevailed over St Mullins was about 3 points, and then the Naomh Eoin and Bagenstown game, Bagenstown Gaels got over Naomh Eoin by a point. Again, I wasn't at either game, just going on reports and chatting to lads who were there. I don't know, were you at the St Mullins game or anything, Gary?
No, I actually missed that one myself, but like from talking to lads in the club and players, I suppose, that were at it, and even lads that were playing, it was a game that was there for the taking, I think, for St Mullins. I think there was a point in it at the first water break in the first half, and then at half time as well, so it was nip and tuck. And look, Rangers were down, I think, Kieran Kavanagh and Dean Tobin, which would be, considerable losses for them. So look, it probably was an opportunity for our lads to get the win there. And look, I suppose it's been a while now since we were kind of at the top table there at under 20s. Probably it was our own age group the last time we were challenging hard there. And that would have been a big result had we got the win there. But you look at our team too, there's plenty of good young lads there, and they're getting that senior experience now this year as well. The likes of Conor Keogh, John Doyle and Connolly, is really showing well too. So look, I from talking to the lads, they were disappointed. They felt it was one that kind of got away from them a small bit. But look, they're kind of the games that you learn from too, and you bring that on with you then, whether you're going to be under 20 again next year, or you're going senior, or you're playing senior, and you have the opportunity to rectify it. Like, so look, they have to look at the bigger picture, I suppose, too. But a little bit disappointed, I think, from overall the kind of feedback on it.
I kind of had heard that kind of too, that they were thereabouts. So I was following on Twitter as we were at training ourselves and following the two matches, and they were nip and tuck. Jesus, they sounded like two great games. And it's great to see, like, it's great to hear that, and we probably had the same as well. Like, while you had lads and you're playing alongside them, even in your full backline, you mentioned that they took a lot out of the under 20. Sometimes lads would look at the under 20 grade and it might be a headache. If it was being played alongside the senior. I know it's a lot of matches for lads, but I think the under 20 competition this year was a massive positive for lads. You know what I mean? The other semi-final was even closer. Like we said, it came down to a puck of a ball. I think Keelan Guider was probably one of the star men. I think for Bagenstown Gaels, I think he picked off 6 points, and Jake Doyle and Richie Whelan inside in the full forward line. Like, they're potentially nearly a senior full forward. They have probably played together in the senior full forward line as well. And they just got over the line against Naomh Eoin. I think Naomh Eoin lost Dean Sly, and I think we might talk about that later on. I think Owen Hosey might pick up an injury in that game as well, and that kind of put him out of the St Mullins game later on. But Dean Sly, I think, went off early enough. He would have been a big loss for their under 20s. But I think that in the reverse fixture, Naomh Eoin got over Bagenstown Gaels by a point, so it shows the kind of quality that it wasn't just a flash in the pan, that the teams are really evenly balanced. I just think it was a smashing grade this year. I know we'll talk about the final, but I just think, Stevie, you were probably involved with the Naomh Breed under 20s, or you still are. You have a game or two more to play, do you?
Yeah, we lost to Carlow by a point the other night. Now it ended up the 3 teams ended up level in points. So there's Carlow have gone straight to the final. Our road to Hatton. Bourne Ranger playing Breed tomorrow night. We're down to 4 men after 5 minutes, and look like we're going to get our arses handed back to us. It was basically an under 19 team. There's no one under 20 on it, I don't think. They've only one under 20. He's walking away, and with a couple of lads injured throughout long term at that age, under 19, and we're 3 points up at a minute to go, and they got a goal in the point in the last minute. So, like they have another game, as I said, tomorrow night. If they win that, they're playing Carlow the final the following week. So, you can't beat games. There's plenty of games coming. So if you're a hurler now, you have no excuse. Like, I even see Joe Nolan's name in the obituaries there, and the Nationals there for coming on for Ballinkillen this week and intermediate as well. So yeah,
things are bad. But get back to real news here. I think Justin, you mentioned the Carlow Town before we preview the final, I suppose, for a minute, but the Carlow Town win was a big win for them. I know Studio came at your expense, but they also won a minor. They beat us last night in the minor competition as well. So that's a good sign. We talked before about maybe we spent a bit of time talking about the fall off there in Carlow Town, maybe at that age, kind of that 17 to 20 age group. So if they're stringing good results like that, apart from the obvious quality there, but I mean, it just gives the whole thing a lift, which is great to see. But the final itself is going to be a cracking game. I think that's on tomorrow night, Wednesday night. That'll be a cracking game. I think in their league, they drew in their league section, I think. You mentioned there, I suppose, Kieran Cavan and Dean Tobin potentially, if you add them to that Munster Rangers team, they would give them a big boost. But I mean, they're a fine team there. Probably, Fiacre Fitzpatrick there's their kind of senior man if you get on it. But there's young Dundon chap is quite good, and Christy Keeley's son as well, Evan and that, and they're a very useful team. I think they play a lovely style of hurling. Donnan Murphy, obviously, I think he got 3 or 4 points in play in the semi-final as well, and obviously he's a top free taker as well. So they have a nice little bit of balance to him. Bagenalstown Gales, I suppose, are backbone by their seniors. They have Darren Nolan, they have Niall Bulger down the middle, you have Jack McCullough, you have Jake Doyle, Richie Whelan, Keelan Guider, Jason Wall, these lads like that. So they might have a little bit more of senior experience and maybe senior games under their belt. But it'd be very close to call. I mean, geez, you wouldn't be surprised if this one goes to extra time. And I think for anyone who's a neutral and looking for something to do on a Wednesday night, it'd be a cracking game to get down to. I won't call it. I call it a draw. I'll sit in the fence here and get splinters again. So, but it'll be a cracking game. I think it'll be one. It has been one of the best championships of the year so far in terms of every team really been within a puck of a ball of any other team across both groups.
Probably if it's anything like, I just remember during, I think, lockdown it was last year, the minor final between Rangers and Bagenalstown was a cracker. So if it's anything like that, and there's probably a lot of, I suppose, the same players on show, so it probably will be tight. But Bagenalstown do have a nice kind of spread across that team of lads that maybe would have hurled under 20 with the county, or have that bit of senior experience. And sometimes just from at that age group, from a physicality point of view, that can stand you in good stead too. But look, it definitely be a tight game. There's no two ways about that, I'd say.
Yeah,
100%. Looking forward to an absolute cracker in that one. So moving on to the junior grade then, lads. Still no sign of Stevie. He's obviously very much committed to the podcast and doesn't want to get the timber out. Now, Joe, he tells me he's waiting on you to fix a hurl for him. So I think you might have to take a bit of responsibility in this somewhere.
No comment on that, I think. Fix the hurl is right. Yeah, I know. I think we'll see him. We might see him yet. I think, are you finished up? Are Breed finished? Are your side of the finished up, Stevie? Have you finished your junior games? Again, the defeat, and I think St. Mullins bet you at the weekend. That's your last group.
Yeah, 1-4, so we're gone. It's looking like you'll have to wait till next year. No, you'll have the hurl fixed again then, will you?
You wouldn't know, lad.
He's back to the day job now. He hasn't time.
I'm still waiting for that check to clear. You see, lad.
As Johnny Logan said, what's another year? Yeah. So,
I said there's third year woodwork students going to learn a lot about how to abandon a hurl between now and Christmas.
Yeah. That's a fact, lad.
Child labour.
Yeah. I was just looking at the groups, Kevin, there today, and lads. I think one group is finished up, and I think it's Burn Rangers, Maisharov and Nave Breed. I think it's not right on your side, Kev or Stevie. You that side is definitely all finished up. I think Burn Rangers come out.
Well, there's a round left this weekend. No, Burn Rangers are in the other side, but
that's not your group. Yeah, sorry.
No, there's 2 games this weekend. I think
that's in the other side.
There's a Pal in Bagenalstown and Tullow and St. Mullins. So I'd say it'll be St. Mullins and definitely Bagenalstown. I'd say St. Mullins as well.
I think in the other side then it was Mount Leinster Rangers and Burn Rangers.
The Burn Rangers and Rangers. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
and Burn Rangers, it's an or.
After losing him, I think there for a sec.
Go on, Joe.
Yeah, no, sorry, Stevie. No, I didn't know whether you'd lost there. Work away.
Like Sam Mullins the other night, Tom Dyle was full forward and wasn't getting a whole lot of show, and he came out and scored 1-6 from centre forward. He bit of experience in the right place at the right time, and some right good hurlers on it now. And it was you know the lads, they're doing a bit of training. It's more than probably we had now, probably 5, 6, 7 lads maybe training off that team. So
I suppose what helps.
Still say Burn Rangers after getting to the final last year.
What's probably helping the same ones as I suppose at the moment is that they're all more or less trained together now, the juniors, because obviously we don't have an intermediate team this year, so that wasn't, I suppose, the original plan, but just the way things worked out. So look, it's probably working well for them. They're all trained there together, and you know there's a very good blend there of experience with Tom and stuff. You know, he's very good. Like, he was on the scene, I suppose, when a few of us came senior, and he's a very good man to have around you and to have around the team, you know, from just a few cute tips here and there and just encouragement. Like, there's never a bad word come out of his mouth. Like, you know, he's very encouraging, and there's a lot of young lads there. And look, at the way things are now, I think that's kind of what you have to do with young lads. There's no point in going the other way. And you need to be able to read the people around you too. And you know, some lads might do better with a bit of effing and blind maybe or whatever else, but there's other lads there then that need the arm around them. And look, I think Tom is a kind of father-like figure in that sense for any young lads coming through. But they have a nice balance. Like Michael Dreelan there, he wouldn't be able to play us at senior level. Declan Murphy is as fit as a fiddle. He definitely wouldn't be able to play us at senior level still. You know, and these are lads that have wealth of experience, like, and you know, for some of the younger lads up and coming to be playing and training with them lads is great. Like, so hopefully it'll stand us in good stead going forward. Yeah.
Yeah, and see there just on the Burn Rangers game, young Dylan Townsend I think scored 110 their game against Michael. It's cracking feat for him. I think he was up on minor last year, so it shows. We spoke about Burn Rangers kind of getting stronger year on year in that grade, coming up with players like from the underage setup, you know, that they're quite competitive. I think actually they beat us in minor there last week or week before. So they're constantly getting players up now into that junior grade. You know what I mean? So they're filling their panel as well, which is great for them. And you know, I'd say a lot of their younger players are going to really lift it there this year for them. But I think they're true on that side as far as I know in second place. And Munster Rangers top the group. I think on that side, and then I think probably looking like Bagnallstown on your side, Stevie. Is it Bagnallstown, and then maybe it could be either. Is it one of two? Then really, it's either Sam Mullins or Carlow.
Sam Mullins. Sam Mullins are playing. I think they're playing Tullow. I'm not sure now the fixture, but I think it's Tullow.
Yeah.
I reckon that Tullow haven't won a game yet. I look at Sam Mullins, as Gary said, very strong spine. Like I think Michael Dream scored 2-2 or 2-3 maybe. Chap centre back there, James Kelly, was it? He was decent enough too. Another lad midfield. I can't remember all the names, but now they were very decent spine on it now. If the Burn Rangers second and Bagnallstown are first, that'll be a cracking semi-final anyway. In one of the semi-finals, that'll be a repeat last year's semi-final.
Yeah, I think Bagnallstown had 5 points after 3 games, 1-2, drew 1, lost none. So you'd be thinking that they might top, but you wouldn't know. Like you said, you just don't know. But it'll be a good game. It'll be good to see. Like there's 9 teams there, you know, and I think they've all played all their games. You know, I think all the games have been fulfilled, which is a great sign too. So that'd be interesting to see how things top up. You know, this weekend, see who goes through from the far side. You'd be hoping as well, maybe that this year. I know we talked about it here that maybe two teams might go up. Do you know what I mean? Up into intermediate might be good if possible. I know some of the first teams could, some of the, you know, if not Leinster Rangers won it, obviously they have a team up intermediate already. But it might be, you know, be nice for some of the other teams to step it up, because you do notice to step up in hurling. Even our lads this year, even though while we got a couple of beatings in intermediate, the hurling is better. Do you know what I mean? The quality hurling is better, and ultimately it brings lads up. So, it might be something for the county board to tease up rather than just bringing up one.
Yeah, definitely something we're looking at. So intermediate then, lads, talk us through that one and what we have to expect this weekend. I think you're at a game apiece, where you?
Yeah, we played Carlow Town on Sunday evening. First quarter note was not in it up to the water break. I think it was 3 points. I think it was 3 points all. We wouldn't have been too happy in the line now. It wasn't that it was 3 points all. That wasn't the problem. It was just things were going on. If there was bad decisions to be made, we were making them all. If there was two decisions, a right way and a wrong way, I don't think we were doing the wrong one, unfortunately. But then we got a goal then shortly after the water break and kind of pulled away then bit by bit. So look, we have Michael Navon next Saturday at 6 o'clock in the Super Bowl. That's our only home game. So I don't know how way that works. Obviously, Michael have beaten Rangers, and we have to win to have any hope of getting top. But I haven't a clue regard score difference what way it is. But look, realistically, if you're going to win it out, you're going to have to win your next 3 weekends. You're going to have semi-final the following weekend and the final the following weekend. So, right, it's good to be coming in on winning matches, but like this one is going to tell us big time where we are, because I've seen Michael playing Rangers a couple of weeks ago, and I just seen the Michael team there. A few more back on it off the junior team there. James Bean, Gavin Rashitsko, they would have been on it last year on the intermediate team. So I'd say they'll have a stronger panel now going forward with Nevon, with him gone out with the junior. The Braun no sub today below in Burris or in Michael, against Mount Leinster Rangers, which Mount Leinster didn't bring on either, and you're going to need 20 to win any game now, knockout game. If you're able to win without less than 20 players, fair play to you. But look, we're going to have on Saturday evening at 6 o'clock, and we'll see where we are after that.
The other side, Joe?
Yeah, we hurled Ballinkillen hurled Navon Michael there on Sunday, so it was kind of 4 o'clock on Sunday. And look, there was only one winner. I suppose. Look, we would have liked to stepped up. We've trashed over this ground already, but I suppose stepping up is one thing. But stepping up maybe with a fuller hand might have suited us more this year. But look, anyway, we gathered together the lads, and I suppose Stephen made a good point there. I suppose Navon coming into the match, I think they had only played one game up to that, Stevie, if I'm thinking right. They'd only played the Mount Leinster Rangers game. That was their first game. So our game was the second game. And they had a good panel out. Obviously, I suppose with their juniors been knocked out, I think on a Friday night, they kind of had to pick at them as well. So look, I suppose we were always under pressure. The game started off even enough. We kind of kept things tight at the start, but in fairness to them, their bit of class showed off. You have a kind of you have 2 wing forwards there, Kevin Foley on one side, Martin Clowry on the other. Aina Cavan in full forward, Keelan McCabe started in corner forward. They're four lads who are senior hurlers probably. In a lot of clubs could even be senior hurlers this year. Yet you wouldn't know for Navon. And they started to pull the strings. No matter what we did, we were kind of under a bit of pressure. Shane Harmon there as well. He did, he was quite busy in the corner as well. But I suppose what didn't help us, we poked. I think we poked. 16 or 17 wides over the hour, and I suppose it killed us. I think we scored 1-6, but you put half of them on the board, and it's 1-14, 1-15, which probably be a truer reflection of what we were at. But look, the best team won. They led kind of from start to finish. I suppose we had a lot of good performers. Some of our Sean Minchin was excellent in goal. Made a return there. He would have hurled some of the junior last year. Stood in on Sunday, and he pulled off a few brilliant saves for us. Tommy Cox, shown he's good as ever. He had a great battle in the corner, as well, blocked and hooked and everything. Niall Murphy. Eric English out in midfield just after coming up from minor level last year. Really kind of grew into the game. Some other excellent forms, Mark Dermody as well. Another young lad stepping up for us. So we were very happy with the game. But I suppose, look, it was a kind of going through the motions for Navon, really. Even when they emptied their bench was very strong. And I think they're not far off the team I'd say they were last year in terms of in terms of, I know they might have lost one or two up to the senior, but they were very, very strong. And played a lovely style of hurling in fairness to them. And I suppose it'll take they're a very physical team, as you expect from a lot of the name own teams, but they're very physical, well able to hurl. So yeah, it was definitely the next level up. The next kind of a level up, probably too far for our lads. But just kind of getting back to the point there about numbers. We talked last week about St. Mullins and the intermediate and fielding 3 teams, and how good they were as a club to do for so many years. And Michael are doing it, and Mullins Rangers this year. But it just shows you how fickle things are. We played Michael on Sunday, which was a year to the day. We won the junior last year. And I looked at the photograph, and out of whatever 23 or 4 lads that were available to, not even 23, I think it was 21 or 2 that night that were available. There was 12 of them not available to us this week. Either that have gone up to play senior or injured or just not around. But we had 6 other fresh players, if you get me in, to play. So it just showed you the turnaround that clubs can have from any one year to the other, and how hard it can be sometimes in rural areas to keep lads, for various reasons, for life, as I say. But just it kind of put kind of that kind of chat into my mind when I was looking at the picture and seeing the different faces,
You were the freshest out of 6.
I was. Well, in fairness, now when I came in, lads, in fairness, I made a big difference. I mean,
where did you come on?
There was a full forward. There was an 11 point swing. When I come on. In fairness, now it was for Michael, but I made a difference. In fairness, I have to say, I had a great chat with Philip Smithers, who was full back. We had a great chat about starting back for the year and who was not on the staffs and who was back, and having the chat about school life, because that was about all I was in there really to do now. So, but anyway, sure, look, that's the choice which you have to, once you enlist, you may soldier,
Many touches as well you get, Joe.
Well, I got a few before the game anyway, Gary, and I gathered up the balls after the game. Probably for my 15 or 16 minutes, I don't know whether I don't know whether I even touched a player or a ball or anything, to be honest with you, for sure. Anyway,
filled your pockets a bit, man. Yeah,
that's it, lad. Yeah, but it was a bit of crack. In fairness, look, sure, we were down to kind of bare bones. We'd only 17, including myself, togged out. And sure, look, a couple of lads got injured, nothing too serious, thankfully, but. Sure, look, you just stand in and that's it. But look, it was, that's the joys of it.
That's it. Well, listen, fair play for doing it. But will you be talking again now Saturday at 6? You're playing the Rangers, aren't you?
Not been smart, lad. But if we're, if you have to sort of thing, Sure. Just, I
understand.
I tell you, I've been very straight. I suppose we want to try field. It's just been a bad year in terms of just with numbers in the club, just for a multitude of reasons. And I think no matter what you do, we told the lads on Sunday, no matter what you do, this year, last year, we were in a completely different space in terms of, where we were after winning the junior final, preparing for a senior final. A lot can change in a year, but the whole thing is that you keep doing the right thing for the club. And maybe the easy thing to do, even last Sunday or even this Sunday, it could be said, what, we're not in it anymore. So look, we won't bother playing the game. We won't turn up or whatever. But that's been disrespectful to not only our opposition, but being disrespectful to your own club and what it represents. So whatever you have to do to field, I think you try your best. You try your living best to do it, if you can. And I think we will on Sunday, or sorry, at the weekend. But look, we're going to be under pressure. But look, what do? You just get on with it.
It's like Ronaldo returning for United, actually, is it?
Yeah, I'm carrying about 27 stone. Huh?
Well, wait till you see this now. Wait till you see this. I'm going to block off Stevie for a second there, but there's a message coming in from Ballykill Hurling. The numbers are tight, all right. Joe turned into Joe Canning. We have another one in there from the great Gary Fields. The great Joe Nolan is back hurling. So it was definitely talk of the weekend. Listen, come here. Don't mind the return. I may take that joke off the screen. I'll give me a second. Don't mind the return of what do you call it, Mr. Mouse Kavanagh. It was all about the Joe show there at the weekend. Anyway, the sounds of things. But I know. Listen,
I think so.
in all seriousness, right? The Mouse is back. I think back. I nearly played back the interview when I did with me last week. Oh, jeez, I don't know if you're right there now for last week or for next week. He says, "Oh, what did he score? 1-6 was it? A 1-2 from play." So I don't know how weak that knee was there now, tongue in cheek. But I'll tell you one thing: if it's weak and he does that, it doesn't bode well for a future opposition. Gary, what was the story, man? Tell us about this. You played in it. It was always going to be a close enough game, like, because we've spoke about the improvements that Naomh Eoin have made, and obviously he made big improvements in the second half against Rangers. I thought you were very good in the second half. I thought you were terrible in the first half, and you know that yourselves, like. But you put in a very encouraging performance, and do you feel maybe you carried that through into the game, and how big a battle was it, like?
Yeah, look, to be honest with you, Kevin, we probably had no choice but to carry it in, because for us it was almost like a quarter final against Michael. To a degree, like you want to be able to control the controllables, as they say, and that game we had to control that and get the win. Really, we didn't want to be relying on other results and looking into this week wondering what way will it go. But look, from the Rangers game, I suppose the first quarter in particular is where the damage was really done. And we kind of made sure, or we were kind of saying to ourselves anyway, that look, we were encouraged with our second half performance, and we knew that we had to come out and start quick. Because look, I suppose in the two games before, the Bagnallstown and Ballinkillen one, we started well enough in both of those games too. So we knew we kind of had it in us to get that quick start, and we did. I think the first water break, I think we had 1-8 scored, and we kind of found our feet. But look, I think Michael are probably a different team too than what they would traditionally be known as, and look, they always had the potential in terms of they're obviously still a big physical side. Like there's no change in that, but in terms of their hurling and their pace, like they have plenty of that as well, and they always did too. But they probably played that more traditional style of game, whereas they're maybe changing it up now, and using that bit of pace and whatnot that they have. But look, I suppose for us, we were happy with Michael. Obviously came back into the game very strongly in the second half, and probably in the first half. Look, we had goal chances, we didn't take them. Brian Tracy made a great save. In the first half, to be fair, it was point blank. And probably, in fairness, Michael had a couple of goal chances too that they could have finished off. So, look, we're aware of all that. But we kind of said to ourselves, look, it was just about getting the result and getting the win. It didn't matter how we were going to do it. And look, I suppose we had that kind of feeling that maybe people were writing us off a small bit. But the way we were looking at it too is that, look, 1 win or 2 wins will put you in the same position as 4 wins. We could have won all 4 games and we're still going to be in a semi-final. And that's where we want to be. And look, we have the bye now for this weekend, and we have 2 weeks now to just prepare and get ourselves right. And we'll be focusing on ourselves, and we won't be worrying too much, I suppose, about anyone else. We need to get ourselves in order, and I think once we do that, we'll give ourselves a chance,
Did what do you call it? The first half against Rangers, did that help you figure a lot of things out in terms of the balance of the side? Because again, I've been reliably informed. We all know I wasn't there at the weekend, but Mick Welsh was centre back, Paddy was in the middle, and James was at centre forward. So did that help you and the manager maybe to figure that out? And how important is that going to be, possibly and potentially, in turning the season around? Because now, look, you have the win under the belt. You had a good half under your belt, we say, again, Rangers. You have a good win under your belt now and a hard-fought one against Michael. You have a weekend off to recover. So all of a sudden, like, things aren't looking so bad. You get a look at the lads this weekend, and obviously we don't know what way it's going to match up just yet, like, but it's not a bad little position to be in now, in fairness.
No, and look, as I said, the goal we had at the start of the championship, and was just to get to the semi-final. Whether we won 1 game or we won all 4, it didn't matter. Once we got into a semi-final, that was all that mattered. In terms of what you're saying, look, I suppose a lot of people would have had opinions on who should have been playing where and that, like, outside of the team, I suppose. And the 3 lads that you mentioned, Paddy, Mick and James, like, realistically you could play them anywhere. They're that natural. But look, I think there's no harm in trying new things too and see how it works out. It worked obviously at the weekend fairly well for us, and we were happy enough with it. But people said, should James be pushed forward into centre forward? But like people saw what he was doing too with the county at the time at centre back, and he was phenomenal, really. And he's just that kind of hurler that you can put anywhere. It's great to have the option, really. That you probably have three lads there all could play centre back. You know, Paddy was best centre back in the county before he went away, without a doubt. Like, you know, Mick got hurler of the year on our run to Leinster for the club, and you know, he's a powerhouse there. And for me, he's probably the most, if not the most, underrated hurler in the county. He's phenomenal for us. So look, we're not too worried, Kevin, I suppose, as to what other people think, and you know, the analysis that's done. But we'll find what suits us best, and we'll go with that. But look, you need to probably try a couple of things here and there too, and see how they fare out. And if they work, they work, and if they don't, they don't. And you live and learn, I suppose, and that's just it, you know.
We have a couple of things just to mention about that. One is actually a comment. So I can't relate to this. Again, I wasn't there. But this will probably make sense to you.
Yeah. It was made in fairness to Paul, he took off there in the second half, and Paul is very deceptive. Like, I think lads don't realise how quick he is. He took off with a ball there from around the 21, and he put the afterburners on. I think he could have made it up to the Michael 45, I'd say.
I think he got a free again.
Yeah.
I think he's very quick. I think he's and I think in fairness, you probably say, Gar, I'd say even in the last year with lockdown and everything, he's probably even got quicker, if you know what I mean. Like, he was always, you know, he's really quick. And
in fairness, like, even like Paul, like, I obviously know him fairly well, I'd be good friends with him, but he's unbelievable to mind himself too off the field. Like, he's a role model for it, really, and he'd nearly make you feel bad. You'd be there eating a few biscuits, and he'd be taking care of himself.
I do hear it doesn't bother you too much.
It doesn't faze me too much now.
I'd say don't look too hard at him. What he's at, that's great. I'm
happy with my couple of jammy Dodgers now, but he's more into the rice cakes and whatnot. But look, Paul's phenomenal. And
is that a cocktail? Is it?
What?
Is that a cocktail? This jammy Dodger, is it?
No, I'm off all those.
Well, listen, it's one little segue. It was actually the other point I was going to make. I think we mentioned it briefly there a few weeks back on the pod. Was the shape the Paddy's in, and I'd argue that he's probably in better shape now and he's more mobile than maybe what he was at centre back when he was doing all the hurling. Like, he's getting around the field, like, and I think it's great credit to him. I don't know if that's something you'd notice yourself, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I think even when he came back last year during the summer, like, from talking to him, you know, he was working hard when he was over actually in Dubai, and they were locked down as well, and he was just, I suppose, home workouts or whatever. But I remember the first day he came on, it actually could have been the semi-final against Ballinkillen, possibly, or maybe the last group game. And he looked phenomenally trim. Like, he was as trim as I'd seen him since, I suppose, he was hurling. But look, Paddy's one of these lads as well. He's been around a while now at this stage, and you know, he's been around, I suppose, since he can probably remember as well. He's been on the senior scene for a long time. And he's still only 30 or so. But Paddy's a great lad too, to mind himself, in fairness, and it was only a matter of him getting the body back right again, and just used to that kind of training again, and you know, getting more matches into him. And look, it's all the hurling in the world, like, there's no question about that. But he's a real leader as well there for us, in fairness, and you know, anyone that's heard with Paddy would tell you the abilities that he has. Unbelievable.
Definitely. Lads, we're going to talk a bit more about Michael in the preview. We can kind of double it up there, you know, just we're conscious of time because this show has led to Titanic there the last few weeks. And as I said on previous podcasts, Titanic is a good over film, but I don't know if lads have 3 hours or time to maybe be driving 3-hour journeys, although I had it at the weekend actually. But anyway, it's a different story. To be going around listening to it tomorrow is what I'm trying to say. So let's move on to the second game. Now, we sat here on this podcast last week and we barely even mentioned Munster Rangers and Ballinkillen because we Ballinkillen in the grave. And in fairness,
well, you had anyway, Kev.
I don't know. I think I might remember the Ballinkillen person tipping Rangers, but anyway, we didn't talk too much about it, lads. It was a formality, in fairness, in our eyes, and we got that one horribly wrong because I think, was it going into the last quarter, Joe? Were Ballinkillen ahead going into the last quarter even?
Oh, we were ahead with, I think, 10 minutes to go. Even into the last quarter. Yeah.
So what changed? What did actually change in the space of a week? I suppose, without seeing the ball poked, you'd say attitude. But tactically, what changed then, and what was the fundamentals that gave them the platform to perform better?
Well, look, I suppose we had a couple of changes as well. Like Michal was back on the edge of the square, so you're up. Sean Murphy was obviously at the start as well. So there's two big fill-ups that we had. Now we were down, we were minus a couple of other lads as well, but we rejigged things. David went back centre back. Dion was kind of wing back. Michal was back full back. Sean Murphy up in the forwards. Jack Tracy was more advanced. We probably used Craig a little bit more as well in terms of a tactic as well, in terms of, but ultimately, every player, just picking those names as I talk here, ultimately, I think you mentioned in one word there was their attitude. And I think that was kind of from the get-go. A big fill-up, obviously, getting the goal just after, 10 or 15 seconds into the game. A good ball across, and Craig took it, and I think it was a big one for Craig as well. He took it and drove. Maybe did what he didn't do against or that we talked about against Bagenstown. Maybe hesitated a little bit, and when he saw it this time, he went for a juggler, and it was a brilliant finish, and there was no saving it. And that gave us a massive boost at the start. You're a goal up, but I suppose then it's the next few balls that really matter. And I thought we were a lot more compact. We didn't give the Mount Leinster Rangers forwards the space that maybe we afforded some of the other teams. Maybe the other teams, that our lines were a lot tighter. That, say, our half back line especially maybe sat back a little bit more. And whatever about saying to a team, especially I suppose going on last year's final, if you look at it, like Mount Leinster Rangers blitzes, I think for 2-6 in the first quarter, and the game was over. And I think the boys were very determined in this game not to let that happen, to be, no matter what happened, to not let them get in for goals, and having that kind of compact shape. You're always at less risk, and I thought our defending in that compact shape was excellent, because we gave away scoreable frees, and I know Dennis Murphy maybe didn't have, and Chris on the frees, and even Dermot for another one didn't have the best of days in them, but we didn't give them a lot of gimmies too, which was great at that time despite the pressure. But that was a big thing. But our work rate as well, and our aggression, I think that was a big word that the lads brought in. That kind of aggression as well. I suppose having a couple of lads back, and I suppose I don't like mentioning particular players, because it's obviously, like Gary said before, it's kind of a 20-man game now. But Sean was a big fill up front, because he's a big, strong, powerful kind of direct runner, and Gary knows as a back, I'm sure, from hurling, like not every ball is going to be a perfect ball, and if you have forwards up there that you can, when you're under pressure, that you can just let one up to them, and that it's going to stick and give you a little bit of a break. It's a big thing for a back, and I think Sean gave us that the other night. And then, like I said, with Craig and Jack and other lads feeding off him, and I think our kind of regression and work rate was really shown with Jack's goal in the second half, because we got a goal out of kind of a ball that was in and probably should have been cleared by Mount Leinster Rangers, that they're probably disappointed with. But Jack turned it over, and Craig turned it over inside, and Jack flashed it to the net, and it probably typified our spirit during the game. So kind of, like I said, Kevin, probably a lot of factors, maybe personnel, positioning, but ultimately probably attitude, aggression, work rate were the key things as well, because your setup will get you so far. But definitely there was no comparison probably between that game maybe, and even probably the two previous games, in terms of how we approached the game that way,
So the last quarter then, when Rangers cranked it up, is there a similarity? It's probably unfair to ask you this, because I don't know if you actually weren't there, I don't think, for the first quarter of Rangers and St. Mullins. Gary, were you actually there for the second game before I asked this?
I wasn't there for it.
Don't get me snack box.
Jamie Dodgers.
You wanted to beat you and Supermax. Down at Papa
Yeah.
John's with 4 pieces.
So I suppose what I was going to ask there was like, was there a similarity in, and we'd see it with the Limerick senior hurlers as well, that they'll go through a particular quarter and just go up a gear, and teams will find it hard to match no matter what they do. So did that actually happen in the last quarter, do you think, or was there a drop off from Ballinkillen as well?
Well, just to take it back a step, I suppose just in the third quarter, Kevin, we hit 7 wides, I think, alone that third quarter. And I know Mullinster Rangers hit wides too, but it was, in fairness to them, they hit a lot of bad wides, you know what I mean? Now, some of them are, in fairness to our lads, we said about our work rate, I'd say we never got as many hooks and blocks in the game in terms of our aggression, in terms of our tackle. So obviously meant they're shooting a little bit, under pressure. But for us to kind of push on and really probably to really seal that game, that third quarter was probably a place where we look at maybe where our shot selection was a little bit off. I think we had 7 wides in that quarter, and just 1 or 2 before half time, and that might have pushed us on a little bit. So I suppose coming into that last quarter, we're 4 or 5 points up, and probably the turning point was Eddie Byrne's goal, and it was like a free on the 65 out near the sideline, and you know yourself, and we all know, you give Dennis Murphy a free in the 65, no matter where it is, if it's on the sideline, it's going over the bar or it's going dead anyway. And it happened to fall short in the 21. And in fairness to Eddie Byrne, and he ended up, I think, with 1-3 in fairness to him the night. He reacted first, miscontrolled actually the first time, brought down to himself, but brought it away from the play and absolutely lashed it to the net. And I think that was a catalyst, because we had really worked so hard to get in a position, and now we were only kind of 2 points up, and it did kickstart then a kind of a Mount Leinster Rangers revival, and it probably gave them a little bit of confidence that up to that stage that they were maybe lacking in. And I know that's strange when we're talking about that team in some ways, because it's probably a hallmark of how they play in terms of, but they were lacking a little bit. And again, that was it probably gave the likes, we said, like for the second goal, Patrick took on a ball and, maybe could have taken the handy option and popped it over the bar, and, but went and took and went for goal and kind of, went for the juggler. It wasn't probably that, they did step it up obviously, but they kind of got, they got the key scores to back it up. And I think that first goal, like I said, on another night that was gone over the bar, and it was, instead of being a 3-point turn, it was kind of a 1-point turn. And, we kind of might have been on a different mindset for the puck out. But look, they took their scores in the last quarter. You can't give a team a sniff. It's no more than St. Mullins, when they strike their purple patch, or Naomh Eoin when they struck their purple patch in the first game as well. They're going to hit you for a lot of scores. And in fairness to Mount Leinster Rangers, they hit us in that last quarter, and the kind of anything they nearly struck near the end went over. So, it was kind of one of those games. But I think our lads will take a huge amount out of that going forward into.
Yeah, all right. I think Joe's dropped on us for a sec. We'll throw him back out, and we'll get him back in a moment there. But yeah, so there you have it. That's Ballinkillen and Rangers summed up. So 218 to 211, I think it was, and then Gary E won 219 to 313. So it segues us nicely into the weekend's games. And yeah, I mean, I think the game that a lot of people probably have been waiting for, even though there's a good bit more at stake with the other one, perhaps, is Bindstown and Rangers, Gary, because you're looking at a side there in Bindstown that have made huge improvements, and then you're looking at Rangers that are so solid. But a lot of lads are saying, and you'll have saying this anyway, but a lot of lads are saying that they could see that being a cracker of a county final. It mightn't even transpire now the way fixtures and all end up and stuff like that. And as I said to you will have a say about it, of course. But that is going to be a very, very interesting game, just to see where the level is for Bindstown. And Rangers now, after getting that test last weekend off Ballinkillen, and a strong test, that it's just a very interesting game. So I think that's Sunday at 2:00 inside Dr. Hurling.
Yeah, I think, look, to be honest, it will be a very good game, and I think Bindstown have improved tremendously over, definitely, even from last year. But you could even see, I suppose, from their first game last year to the last game that they played last year as well, that they improved game on game. And they're young, they're hungry, and they have a nice balance there of experience with likes of Styler and Beanie and stuff as well. So they will be a threat, no matter who's playing them, really. look, Rangers are county champions, and they're county champions for a reason. It's up to the rest of us now to try to take that mantle off them. But I think Bagnallstown will have a good crack off it. Momentum is a big thing at the moment for them too. They're flying really. They're getting their wins and they're putting in solid performances. They're racking up good scores too, as are Rangers. So look, I think it will be a very close game. It'll be interesting too because I suppose the potential ramifications of topping the group or second or whatever way they're looking at it from that. But look, either way, I think both of them will definitely be going out to win it anyway. There's no two ways about that. But it will be an interesting battle because I suppose probably different enough styles in one sense. But I think as I say, or to be straightforward about the best team will come out on top. But it is a tight one to call because with that momentum and hunger that Bagnallstown have, they will cause problems for any team really. And having that confidence, like that's earned, and it's not something you just get flash in the pan stuff. They put wins back to back now. Look, Rangers will be confident too. They're probably from, obviously I wasn't in at the game at the weekend, but they were probably under the cosh by the sounds of things against Ballinkillen a small bit. And look, they do have that experience. They plenty of it and always have had it. But they were able to grind out the result. And I suppose if you look at the scoreline in the end, you'd probably say it looked comfortable, which probably wasn't a fair reflection of the game based on what the lads are saying there. But they have that capability that they could blow you away in a quarter. And I suppose with ourselves, you were trying to make 13 points back. It's not easy. And probably the final quarter, the third quarter Joe referred to there, they just put the foot on the pedal a bit and pulled away. So they have the capabilities to do that. But look, if Bagnallstown stay in the game for as long as they can, I think they will cause problems there too. From what I've seen of them this year, they're an ever improving side, good attitude, and look, as I said, they're young, hungry, and have the bit of cuteness too with the experience that they have. So it'll be a very good game. And look, both of those teams are going to have a say as well come the business end. So yeah, we'll see how it pans out.
So just to confirm, to give the viewers and listeners a bit of context, then you're playing the losers of that one, regardless. That's fairly certain, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll be playing the losers, yeah, because we'll finish third, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we're at with that one. So Joe and Stevie, I'll bring you in on that then. Gary, actually, give us a verdict there first. Are you going with Rangers in this one?
Throw me to the wolves now. You said you wouldn't back me into a corner.
I lied.
Where's that?
No,
I was looking for that.
I still have amnesia from the weekend, lad. I couldn't remember saying that earlier.
I'm only getting paid by the hour there, I think, so it's just up there now, I think. No, look, I think it is a very hard one to call. I just think Rangers' experience might do it, but the other side too, I wouldn't be surprised if Bagnallstown pull out a result. So I'm a bit like Joe now. I have splinters in my arse, to be honest.
You would do what not to give Rangers a verdict, Daniel, lad. That's the way you are.
I know.
I'm only kidding. Listen, Joey, what's the story? Who's winning this one and why?
Right, Bagnallstown and Rangers. Right, who's winning it? I'd probably shade with maybe Rangers just a little bit. I think it'll be a massive acid test for Bagnallstown. Kind of really where they're at. Like they've had three good wins, and this will be like we said before, they're kind of stepping it the whole time, and it'll be a big test for them. It'll be a very interesting one. But I think maybe a little bit of maybe physicality in that, and a little bit of cuteness, like what Gary said, that kind of road testedness with Rangers might get them over the line. And I think they'll be looking to kind of flush. I wouldn't say they were, overly happy with their performance against us. And I think they'll be looking to kind of back it, to get that out of their system, and try to get back on the road. again, like they won't fancy playing. They won't fancy. No one will fancy losing and playing St. Mullins. So it's going to be an absolute skin and hair job. Because whoever's going to be left has the potential to knock anyone else out. But I mean, I suppose there, like what Gary said, St. Mullins are in that semi-final now, and
I think we're losing you again, Joe. Unfortunately, don't know what's going on with the Wi-Fi up there tonight, but you have Pat Cody problems, I think. We'll try to get him back in there in a second. I think eventually he was going to say Rangers.
I think so. He was getting there. I think that's why he started blurring out then. He didn't want to call
it. Yeah. So, Stevie, who are you going with? And I suppose why, just to put it out there in greater context then as well.
I suppose in a normal championship, we call it a normal championship maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago or 10 years ago, if you had a top player in a second team, we'll just say, for instance, it was Munster Rangers and St. Mullins, you could see one or the other, maybe try a few different lads in the game, because semi-final might be for 3 or 4 weeks possibly, but the fact it's on the following week, as week on week, I don't think that's going to happen. Like, you're going to have, I'd say Bangstown will have the 15 best hurlers they have definitely going out. Munster Rangers, I'd nearly say the same. So last year's first game that we done on the Power TV was Bangstown and Munster Rangers. Now, we commentated the whole game, but the game didn't go out. And I knew when Claire Gardner was texting me during the game, it wasn't to send me a voucher for Max Menswear or anything like that. So that was the day I actually looked at Bangstown. Came up. We're playing D team at the time. Like, I know St. Mullins had been in the Leinster final year before. Looking at, you'll find out a lot about it. And they scored 2-something, like a big score, but Leinster scored 4-20-something. And as Gary said, like, Bangstown improved every game after that in the championship. They just, the St. Mullins said, I think Michigan probably was the next one. They just didn't go over the line in it. And this year they started, and they've started, built in last year, and continued on and on and on, and they're where they are now. Won 3 games over 3, and some people have said it's a free shot at the Munster Rangers. It isn't. It isn't. Like the winner goes, tops the group. They're playing with the Michigan Ballinkillen in the semi-final. That'll be uncharted territory for Bangstown in a long time, topping the group in the senior. St. Mullins, Munster Rangers would be used to it. The fact that the semi-finals are the week after, Eddie Byrne, full forward, wherever he's going to be, I think a lot depends on how Bangstown handle him. And a lot depends on how Bangstown handle him is how Bangstown get on further out the field, the ball going into the Munster Rangers forwards. The supply of ball going in has to be stopped going in. The more quality they have going into that forward line, Chris Nolan's, John Nolan's, these lads, and they'll work hard for ball as well. The thing I was impressed with Bangstown last day against Ballinkillen is I've seen them. They took their chances, but they took the right decisions at the right time. They probably won't have as much time against Munster Rangers to make that decision, and their decision making is going to have to be better again. On that, you're probably going to say, look, if both teams play much the way they're playing at the minute, there's going to be nothing in it. I'd probably give Munster Rangers just a nod, but it'd be interesting to see as a team how Bangstown deal with Munster Rangers, both man on man and physically wise as well. You're probably looking at the Bangstown team is that bit average age, I'd say, compared to Munster Rangers. There's probably going to be 3 or 4 years on average, if not more. That how did they handle that on a 15, man for man? That the physicality over the whole field, can they win all them battles where they have to be won, like say if it's Keane Doyle and Eddie Byrne, for instance, or Alfie and Chris Nolan or John Nolan. So I'd give Munster Rangers the nod, but it'll be interesting to see what way it works out, as in quarter by quarter, as you said, Kevin. Limerick come with a strong third in a match and they can blow someone out of the water, like Munster Rangers in the last quarter against Ballinkillen, whether it was Ballinkillen ran over legs, Munster Rangers they got their 2 goals. That's a trademark of theirs, and often in games where they're looking like they're doing nothing and they put the game to bed. So I go Munster Rangers on just an all known form at the minute, as in what they have in the bank. Like obviously what Bagnus would have in the bank at the minute is their 3 games. They're coming up now. They're coming up the ladder. They're coming up another step of the ladder, and this is going to tell a lot about them. And I go Munster Rangers by no more than 3-4 points, but don't be surprised if it's the other way. But I'd still say that they should edge it on all known form over not just over the last 4 or 5 weeks hurling, but more or less over the last 5-10 years hurling.
Yeah. If you wondering, sorry, Stevie, to cut you across it, like probably what they'll obviously try to be doing is cutting out that space for them quick forwards, Munster Rangers. And in fairness, I know all teams are playing the kind of the loose 6 or the 6 is there to drop back and sweep. Not a full time sweeper, but like the way I said, most teams are operating now, and I think Dermot Byrne, has really slipped into that role really well. He could have a big impact on the game because, I think he'll kind of sit deep and kind of want to protect the full back line, but he might cut out some of those options for that fast, quick ball in into Bagnallstown, and it'll they might have to kind of reinvent where maybe they're scoring from further out the field, and maybe that battleground might be somewhere where Munster Rangers might come out on top in terms of, say, like.
Well, I'm gonna throw a spanner in the works now. What if Jamie Clark goes centre forward and runs at Dermot Byrne the same way as James Doyle did, and all of a sudden Dermot has to actually turn and track, and he doesn't have the luxury of sitting? Can they get bodies back quick enough to maybe cover who Dermot is supposed to be marking? And in doing so, you're leaving a Beanie Doyle free in the middle if you do that. If there's a body coming back, it's either a Beanie Doyle free or a Jack McCullough free. So there's a few different variables here now, and we saw it with Doyle in the second half. For a little while, he was running at Dermot, and there was a bit of hassle. And then they sorted it out. There was a sweeper, I think, because I think he might bring up Brough lad there, Gary, and obviously I think Jack Ryan, and I can't remember who else was coming over onto James and allowed Dermot to come back and sweep. So that could be a possible spanner in the works. I don't know if they'll like Jamie Clark running directly, regardless if there's a sweeper or not, because they'll either have to foul him or there'll be a man inside. So it mightn't actually have to be the direct ball, even though there is a threat in there.
Yeah, the only thing about it, like I said, is that they are masters of that kind of middle ground. Like the likes of Paul and Gary Lawler and these lads will drop, and even their half forward line will come back really deep to do what they did. I just think they'll try make it into a battleground there, and not let not avoid that kind of running game from Bagnallstown, and try to cut out that they're used to their speed, because you get that ball into that inside line, they'll do damage with quick ball. But it's going to be intriguing, all right, yeah, and I don't think there will be a whole lot in it, because there's no shadow boxing. While both are qualified, they'll be looking to get top of the pile and assert their dominance, kind of.
Yeah, and 2 points on it. I think, funnily enough, I know you've kind of mentioned the battle in Rangers and stuff, but I think Bagnallstown will want to make this a battle and try to make this a battle. And they have guys there that will get stuck in, and they like that kind of stuff. They won't shy away from it. This is a different Bagnallstown side where, if you go back years ago, there was a whole thing about town teams where I don't want to play a nice knee hurl, they don't get stuck in. These lads do get stuck in. There's an element of that in them. So the other last point that I'm going to make is I do think Rangers will win this, right? But I do think there's actually honest pressure on both, even though they're already through. I'll tell you why. Because for Rangers, if they don't win it, they don't want to be playing St. Mullins in the semi-final. And for Bagnallstown, if they don't win it, all of a sudden momentum has gone a little bit, and there's pressure going to that semi-final. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit in this, even though it's not so much as I don't think it's a free shot for both or a free pass for both. Yeah. There's a little bit in this one now, and that's what makes it all the more interesting. So look, we're going to have to move on to the next one, lads, just with time and stuff. And look, sure, this is a knockout game. Let's be honest about it. That's a 3:30, I think, Joe. That's Ballinkillen, obviously, and Naomh Eoin here we're talking about. Yeah, look, it's something that we kind of thought might have happened just about over the last couple of weeks. It has transpired that way. So where are both sides on it? We've touched briefly on Naomh Eoin. Maybe start with Naomh Eoin, actually. We've done a lot of talking about Ballinkillen already. So we haven't done much about Naomh Eoin in the fact that you were saying there's a lot of younger lads coming on board. and we have mentioned the improvements and stuff, but just maybe articulate that a little bit more and balance out this one for us.
I think, I think, look, from what I was seeing in first hand now at the weekend, I think they'll have a lot of confidence off the second half performance that they put in against us in particular. You know, they caused problems, and you know they got scores, and they were impressive. They were intense, you know, in their tackle, their physical side, but they're well able to move. And you know, if you have the likes of Dwayne Kavanagh and stuff that you can pull off the bench for experience too when the game is in the melting pot, you know, that's definitely worth its weight in gold as well. But you know, they have a few nice forwards there. I haven't seen just Dean Sly, is it? But I've heard about him, I suppose, and I heard he's a good hurler. And look, if he's back in the mix, he's a free taker for them as well. You know, that's another forward to their arsenal then. So, but like I think it will be an interesting game. It'll be a physical game, I think. And look, it's knockout hurling at the end of the day. But I think Michael, or you know, with Brian Tracy there as well. Like they'll be revved up, and you know, John Michael is always a target for puckouts, but they seem to be comfortable playing a chart too if they want. You know, which is something that they mightn't have been traditionally known for. You know, they always had big ball winners, and they tend to be more direct. But they do seem to have that now, that they can play it out from the back if they wish. And you know, they do have plenty of movement inside as well. So look, I think it'll be interesting. But on the flip side, then with Ballinkillen, I suppose Sean Murphy is a big asset if he's back. From what you're saying, Joe. And you know, they have movement and pace inside as well. So it'll probably be interesting out around the kind of middle of the field, and what kind of game that both sides are looking to play. Whether Ballinkillen were probably going for a game through the hands, I suppose. Maybe in the first couple of games that I've seen, but now that Sean Murphy's there, they may tend to go more direct, possibly. You know, and that worked well for them last year, in fairness. And as I said, Michael can kind of go both ways now, the way they're set up. So it'll be very interesting.
And you're tilting towards Gary?
I think just from what I saw of Michael, look, I haven't seen enough of Ballinkillen bar the first game that we played them, but from what I saw kind of Michael last week, I think I'd probably just side slightly with Michael on that. But look, Ballinkillen have obviously put up a big performance last week too, that I didn't see, so I can't judge them, I suppose. But just on what I've seen, I'll go with Michael, I suppose.
Stevie?
Yeah, I've only seen Ballinkillen. I haven't seen Michael. Pádraig Hines now is one I know Cho is back. Pádraig would say it would be I wouldn't say a younger version, probably, but a different, more hurling version. But they need to get more out like Pádraig Hines this week. I think 2 or 3 points at least off him. Jack Tracy's Joe's been saying been playing well, like, and these lads, Rory Dunbar got a couple of points I think the weekend. Michael, look, last year Ross Smithers had to pull it out of the fire in the match against Magnustown. He had to kind of single-handedly drag them through in the last 5 minutes. Like this year, I think Michael's biggest problem in one way is the lot of lads around the same. They could leave off 4 and bring on 4 different lads, and there's not much of a difference in performance. But Scott Tracy, got 2 goals the weekend. He's back in a bit of form, we'll call it, after that. Adam Kenny, like he was back for intermediate end of last year. I know he was taking the freeze for Dean Sly, was missing. Whether he'd be back the weekend, I don't know. Someone say Owen Hosey was injured. Did he go off last year? Did he play?
He got hurt at
He had a vital loss as well. But after 20, was it?
Yeah, after 20. Yeah.
So like I slightly side with Nev Owen. Just I thought they might do Sam Mullins last weekend, but of course, after talking to Michael Keogh for 5 minutes below on St. Mullins, I should have cottoned on that Mouse was going to be starting, not just coming on for 5 minutes at the end of it. So that rolled out my bet when I put it on was 1-8 to 3 points, I think. So I just give Nev Owen the nod. That like they would have been in a similar position last year, down to the last game. Have they learned enough from that? They might have, maybe they won't have, but the fact that David English is back along with Dion Wall in the half back line will have strengthened up Ballinkillen that much more. So it could be anything like with Sean Murphy playing, if he's getting them runs in, if Nev Owen are not stopping him travelling through, if he gets a run of steam, he got 3 points the last day, he could. And then again, he could be left in full forward and get the ball direct and he runs straight at goal. Like Brian Tracy's been stopping a lot of shots there the last couple of games. So, he's been Michael's probably best player in the last couple of games and they haven't been winning games. And he's, if they're going to be looking down that end again, that the goalie is going to be one of your best players, it's not a good ask either. But I'll just give Nev on the nod, be maybe 2 points, 2 or 3 points.
Right, Joe, step up.
I'm sure there's no point commentating. Apparently, Nev are going to win. I know. Right. Just look. I think I'm going to side with Ballinkillen, but I'll give me reasons behind it. Not just pure loyalty, I suppose. But I think last weekend, both teams had 2 good performances, right? And I think one simple thing probably killed both teams at the weekend. I think Gary might maybe flick back if he flicks back his mind that maybe. Michael hit a lot of, I won't say bad wides, but maybe crucial wides when they were probably level with yourselves, Garrett, to go into the lead. I think they drew back level, which is not right, and they didn't. They might. Yeah. And the same again in the game against Munster Rangers, and I suppose we were guilty of the same as well. Guilty of the same both against St. Mullins. I think the first day, Gary, we hit a lot of. You remember as well. Both teams have been very. Have been guilty of poor shooting, and I know it's a very simplistic thing, but I suppose poor shooting at key times and making poor choices with their shot selection. And I think whoever comes good with that will have a big say. I think in terms of personnel, probably like I said, the couple of changes that we had and with lads coming back in, Mihal on the edge of the square gives a big physical presence for Ballinkillen and probably Dion out in the half back line. He had a very good game the weekend, and he might be maybe Marshall or maybe detailed to Marshall, John Michael, or maybe himself or David. Probably maybe even Dion, maybe in terms of maybe physicality or whatever else. But so Ballinkillen might be looking to target, which I think they did against Munster Rangers. They kind of picked certain aspects of their opposition's play and maybe players and targeted key men for that. I suppose for Nev Owen, again, I don't know what way Dean Sly is, but he tipped over 3 points against Munster Rangers in their other game from play, and he was a good free taker. Now, in fairness to Adam Kenny, he did nothing wrong with the frees the last day, and he got a goal from play as well. Their inside line looked well. I mean, Scott Tracy got 2 goals the last day and looked kind of sharp for a young lad coming in. So Ballinkillen have to be on their toes there. Maybe again. Not surmising, but maybe Owen Kavanagh maybe could be deployed maybe back into the full back line where he might have been used in the half back line before. So I think Owen Larkin and his Lenny and Tony Meany will be trying to maybe to make the matchups right in there. I suppose on the flip side, right? I know we talked maybe about at the end having Sean Murphy in there, but getting the ball into him is another thing, and in that middle ground and even out in the half back line. I have to say, I thought in the game against St. Mullins, St. Mullins didn't turn when Michael were putting under pressure. They were kind of controlling around the middle, or St. Mullins weren't able to turn balls through their half back line and middle ground, and they made it a battlefield. And I think that's going to be a key area for them as well. This weekend, Kavanagh chap was quite good out there, and Ross had a great battle with James Doyle as well. And these are all going to be lads who are going to have an influence. I think in their inside line, we mentioned, for Ballinkillen, we Jack Tracy there, but I know we spoke about Mouse's return, and I think he hit whatever he hit at the weekend, 1-6 or whatever he hit. But I think Michael Kavanagh had a very good game on him, as good as you can have on a player of his quality, and he could be detailed as well, maybe to pick up, maybe Jack Tracy or one of our inside line, maybe Craig Wall as well, possibly Craig Wall, in terms of pace and hurling. So. It'll be interesting to see what both managers do in terms of their team selection. why am I plumbing for Ballinkillen? Well, I look, I think we while last weekend was a free shot for us, ultimately, even if we'd beaten Mount Leinster Rangers, it made no difference. It came down to this game after the first game was won by St. Mullins, and I think our attitude was bang on. That the lads didn't kind of look at it as a free shot; they looked at it as kind of redemption. They could have just thrown their hat at it and be steamrolled, but they didn't. They raised their game significantly, and I think we took a lot of lessons and a lot of heart out. I just hope, maybe if there's any niggling doubts about with our lads in terms of finishing the game, maybe they might say, "Oh God, we didn't finish in the last quarter as well as we could." But I don't think that's a fair reflection of that game. But it will be a massive battle. I do think, and Stevie made a good point there as well, that Navan maybe have maybe a couple, their options there. They seem to have a lot of options, and they've a good strong intermediate team. Whether they'll strip maybe one or two lads off that panel as well, because like we said, ultimately it's a quarter final at the weekend. I do think having Sean and maybe Craig and maybe Jack Tracy or these lads further into goal, and maybe having a kind of a hard working and deeper half forward line might suit Ballinkillen, because maybe our half back line, the likes of Dion and David, can launch direct, be it high, long, whatever sort of ball into that full forward line, knowing that it might stick and that we might get a little bit of joy out of that. But I think it's going to be very, very hard to call, very close to call. But I think I'll say I'll give Ballinkillen a nod this weekend.
Right. Well, I feel very poorly placed to call this on because I haven't seen Michael play at all. So I'm going on hearsay really and reports and stuff. But from the outside in, it seems that there's more. They're getting consistent performances, even if they're not getting victories. So, like in all those games, they were competitive. I think maybe if you go back through it, correct me if I'm wrong now. Did Bindestone beaten by the highest margin out of everyone? I'm open to correction on that.
Bindestone beat by 7 or 8 points, I think, wasn't it? In the end, was it 317 to 116 or something?
So there's 5 or 6 in it then between them and Rangers, was there? I think.
4.
Right. Okay. And the other day there's 3 in it. So, like, they're in games. Do you know what I mean? Whereas you look at periods of, like, Ballinkillen were desperate when I saw them. In the first game, I can't really comment on it. It wasn't that, but they were bet by 8. They played very well the last day. So, I don't know. I mean, again, I find I would rather see Michael before I make this call. But I think Michael might just do it. I think they've a bit to prove, and I'd say they're sick of getting wrote off for the last 2 years and people talking shite about them, to be honest. I don't mean us now specifically, but they're not. They're getting a bit annoyed with this, I feel. And I think there's actually a performance in them, a big performance in them. So I'm just going to give it to them just about. So look, couple of bits and bobs to get through. I never mentioned the sponsors at the start of the episode. We are going to go to the hurler of the week there as well. But Cork and Precast thanks our sponsors. So I want to give them a shout out as well. The logo is up in the corner, but if you want people to be able to hear it as well on the podcast, which you will, get up there in the next half hour. Again, sleep is at a premium. Haven't slept for a while now at this stage, but look, adding to keep the people happy, we have to do that. But hurler of the week then, yeah. Again, I'm putting out a disclaimer. I know I'm hand actor part of this. How would I be able to take a hurler of the week?
Hang me out to dry, that's it.
So
we're all in this together, lads. We're all in this together.
Hold on now. I was going to say Gary Pope the nominees.
That's what I mean. Hang out. That's what I mean. Hang out, Gary.
No,
hang out, Gary. Yeah,
I'm impartial in all this. This is your full-time gig. I leave you to it.
No, look. Listen, the way it is, Joe's going to give the winner a bottle of Cadet and a Mars bar, I think, anyway. But no, listen, Joe. Look, the four nominees put out there. So we've Scott Tracy and Navan. We've Fitzpatrick of Mount Leinster Rangers.
Can I just come in that, Kev, for 2 seconds before you announce the winner? All right. Well,
I'm not announcing the winner. I was announcing the nominees, but sure, fucking interrupt me there if you want.
You work away. You work away. I go on.
Right, we got your grand. We got your two. Scott Tracy, Navan, Fitzpatrick from Rangers, Craig Wall, Ballinkillen, and Marty Cavan at St. Mullins. Now, Joe, in you come.
Now, just to say, what we did was we picked one from each team, because there was a lot of good performances, and I suppose just going down through them there, the first game, just giving you my rationale why I picked certain players, because there's a lot of fantastic talent and view, obviously Gary included there. better say that anyway. I know, but look, there's a lot of massive tussles. Say for the first game, I suppose why I did pick Mouse, apart from he clipped over a couple points to play, but big players win big games. And for anyone who wasn't maybe at the game, probably the deciding goal, what was the margin at the end, it wasn't scored by Mouse, but it was a long ball, probably one of very few in that period that was getting through that Michael back line. And it got played diagonally across to him, and he won a great ball over Michael Kavanagh's head, and he turned and gave a hand pass off to, I think it was a John Dyle. Gary got that. Yeah, and John buried it. And that was the deciding score. And there was other players there for both teams who hurled really well. For Michael, I even could have given Michael Kavanagh the nomination for Michael, who hurled on Mouse. They had a massive tussle, and he hurled really well. I think he actually might have come up the field himself and got a score, but. He had a great game as well on him, and he's a fine hurler as well. But I just picked out Mouse for St. Mullins in that game because of, I suppose, the key man for the key moment. Other lads had great games as well there. Michael, Scott Tracy, again, Adam Kenny had a good game. He scored whatever, he hit his frees, and he got a goal and a point from play and that. Brian Tracy as well. I think we're probably just so used to Brian, like we said at the first day, being superb that you nearly take it for par now. I picked Scott because, again, getting the goal, that kind of, he followed in a loose ball at the end of the first half and just got a flick to the net for the first goal, and that kind of gave him something to aim for in the second half. And again, he took his second goal really well, and it was good to see a younger lad stepping up like that. But they had other performances there. And in the other games, then in ourselves and Leinster Rangers game, well, I picked Fitzpatrick again for I suppose he's direct. Well, not quite his direct opponent. Himself and Kevin McDonald were kind of switching a lot in the half-forward line. But his direct opponent had a fantastic game for Ballinkillen as well, which was Dion Wall, or who was marking him at some stage. But in fairness to Fiacre, he's a young man, and he got a great point in the first half to steady the ship when maybe others were, things weren't going for them. And like I said, I think it was just a good sign of a player when things were tight, that he stood up and he nailed the goal, and probably it was the goal that kind of really sealed the deal, or got them really going or motoring in that last quarter for Mount Leinster Rangers. And that's why I picked him. Eddie Byrne had a fine game for him. He hit 1-3, he got the first goal. Again, I suppose, like I said with Brian Tracy, we're just probably used to Eddie having big games and doing things, and that's why I probably edged for Fiacre there. And I suppose lastly, for Craig Wall for Ballinkillen, again, we had a lot of good performances. Jack Tracy had a fine game, Dion, we said David English and so on. But I just thought Craig really set the tempo up front for our forwards with the start that he did. And he was probably unlucky for another goal as well. And it was good for him and good for us to see that he was prepared to go for the juggler early. And even a second time as well, he just flashed the ball, inches wide. And he was a constant threat. And I just thought that was my rationale behind picking them. But there was plenty of other lads in contention for the other teams anyway,
Stevie, I feel compelled to ask you for the drum roll, seeing as all those knives were coming from your place last week. I don't hear the washing machine in the background. There's a drum inside in that, but in fairness, you're going to be quieter tonight, which we're grateful for. We don't hear any dogs in the background. We don't hear any partners in the background. We don't hear any washing machines in the background, and there's no one cutting sticks either. You can give us your best drum roll impression there if you want to, but I'll line up this here anyway, and we did of course put this out. That'll do. We did have Twitter poll, and in the end, you, the listener, and the viewer had decided that Fiacre Fitzpatrick is this week's hurler of the week. So Joe will be in touch with the Bottle Cadet and the Mars Bar in due course.
I could get in trouble for that sort of thing.
No, listen, come here. Fair play to the chap, but I'm going to put it out there on record because he played the first intermediate game, I think, against Nail Breed, and to come up and make a contribution like that as a chap, fair play. So there we have it. We're at the AOB part of the meeting here, lads. Is there anything else to go through before we wrap it up?
I think we'll have to start nominating. We'll have to start nominating backs and goalkeepers. We've nominated 7 lads so far. I think they've all been. I don't know Gary Bennett too well, but I'm going to say this now anyway. Like that. Jamie Carragher's line about Gary Neville. No one wants to be a Gary Neville as in a right back, but does not anyone want to be a Gary Bennett? We've had no nominations for the backs or the goalkeepers.
Well, where about being a Gary Bennett on the hurling pitch, off the pitch? Oh no, that's not children. That's not a life you want to lead. Oh, no.
Keep it PG. All he goes outside PG after 12 o'clock.
Do you want the right to reply there, Gary, before we wrap it?
No, I think I let Joe have his moment in the sun. I'll get him then when he's least expecting it. But no, look, I enjoyed it, and thanks very much for having me. But no, I wouldn't recommend cornerback to anyone.
Full forward's where it's at, lad. Full forward's where it's at.
In fairness, Gary, I recalled you. I don't know, was it a minor final or 21s final? You went to town playing corner forward. Is that right?
It was intermediate, actually. It was intermediate. Yeah. But I'd say for hurdle, I think it was 1 year or maybe 2 year then senior. I would have been in the forwards as well, but I don't know. I suppose they didn't like the small man in the corner, so they'd throw him down the other end of the field. But
you didn't want to show up. You didn't want to show up the likes of James Dale and Mouse up there, or what you can do.
That's it. They were hitting too much low ball, not enough high ball. On top of me.
Well, there you go, lads.
The fair history of small cornerbacks in St. Mullins with Eugene McDonald, and I'd say you're cut with the same cloth.
I'll actually, to be honest with you, it was actually Eugene who had us. I think it was under 14 or 16, and he was the one that put me back there at the time. So he must have saw something. Now, I think I was even taller than him at that stage.
Yeah,
that's what I'm claiming. Anyway, actually, I have a good one actually for you. Because he actually texted me yesterday when he saw what was going on. This Peter Doyle from Bagnallstown. So I didn't know. I suppose I didn't know he was Keane's father until this year. He lived with the county, and it was, what year was it? 2014 county semi-final. We were playing Bagnallstown, and Peter was in corner forward. I was in corner back, the opposite side of the field, and first ball came in anyway, and I think it was about 3 minutes gone or something. And I went down to pick it, and Peter came in from the side, absolutely upended me, man ball, hurled broken half, and so did my collarbone. But I only knew that it was this Peter Doyle fella anyway. I went in with the county anyway, and I was saying to lads, do you know this Peter Doyle fella? And Keane was like, geez, that's my father. I said he must have had you when he was about 12 anyway. But when the county finished up, then anyway, went up to Bagnallstown and had a few pints, and I actually met him there. So in fairness to him, he's a sound man, a bit of a character. I know he's a selector there with Bagnallstown now this year. So anytime I see him, I have a good bit of crack. But he texted me. He said he wanted me to call out my toughest opponent as him. So I said no. He was the hurler that I wanted to be like. So that's what I was going with. But it was a funny old story now that came out of the year. In fairness,
you do have an odd one or two, Gar. Maybe not fit for a podcast, even though we're very liberal here. But maybe at some other stage we'll see what the crack is. Listen, come here, Gar. Best of luck in the semi-final. All right, thanks
very much.
And listen, Joe, Stevie, as always, thanks a mil. Great crack. Do get in touch with us, lads. We had the banner running there. Sorry, no, Gary, if this ends up hiding you, but we are on social media.
He's not that small, Kevin. In fairness, here now. He's not that small.
But covering Joe's chin or two. It's covering Joe's second or third chin.
You were saying something about big players performing on big days. Now you're saying that's fairly harsh on Bennett. You never know.
He's a good one.
Absolutely. Right, kidding. Fair play to you, lads. You're a great crack in fairness. But you can get us, of course, on social media at the Left Wing Back, or email us if you want, leftwingbackpodcast@gmail.com. And thanks once again to our sponsors, Cork and Precast. Thanks. We leave it there. We'll get the episode up on Spotify and Apple and all whenever we can. It's getting late now. Could be the morning, lads. I won't lie. But thanks to everyone for tuning in. And we'll chat to you again soon. And best luck to everyone at the weekend.
Yeah.
Thanks, lads.
Thanks, lads.